Welcome to Nugget 70 with Steve Groman. Well, we promised that we would talk about the earthquakes in Ridgecrest and in Lone Pine. That's where we're going to go today, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we want to start with this very informational, history-packed paragraph. Although the written history of California is not long, records of earthquakes exist that affected the Spanish missions that were constructed beginning in the late 18th century. Those records ceased when the missions were secularized in 1834, and from that point until the California gold rush in the 1840s, records were sparse. Other sources for the occurrence of earthquakes usually came from ship captains and other explorers. The earliest known earthquake was documented in 1769 by the Spanish explorers and Catholic missionaries of the Portala expedition as they traveled northward from San Diego along the Santa Ana River near the present site of Los Angeles. For the period 1850 to 2004, there was about one potentially damaging event per year on average, though many of these did not cause serious consequences or loss of life.
And if people want to know more about the Spanish missions and the missions in general, the gold rush and Spanish explorers, they can certainly order your book.
Yeah, my Western
Often on the
edition.
beaten path.
The
Yeah.
Western edition is full of information.
Those
on
books really
all that.
are filled with information.
We have some interesting charts here I'd like you to discuss with us that we got from the USGS. The United States Geological Survey has put this information out, and it's actually quite interesting if you look at it.
It is very interesting because starting at 1900 all the way through the 1900s, the earthquakes were in the double digits of 6 magnitude or greater. But as of once 2000 hit to about 2009, they went up into the triple digits, 420. From 2010 to 2019, it's 1,468 of them.
What an increase.
That is an amazing increase.
And then here is another chart that breaks it down just from 2000 to 2020, where we saw just a jump in those numbers. As you can see, there's just a jump within that big jump.
Starting in 2000 with just single digits, and then from 2002 to about 2009, there were double digits and then triple digits, and through March of 2020, there were already 30 of them. The earthquakes are most assuredly increasing, and there have been some really serious ones out there.
Here's a map that we found from Caltech of recent earthquakes in California and Nevada. Tell them about this. This is just amazing stats.
And as the page shows, from April 23rd, 2020, there have been 1,231 earthquakes during the last hour, which are the ones indicated in red, during the last day, which are the ones indicated in that kind of bluish color, and then the last week, which is yellow color.
The size of the box by the magnitude. It's just an incredible amount of activity over there in
Right, and
California.
a lot of people, now many of them were only in the 1 point something, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7. They're tremors underneath the ground, and they go anywhere from 3 kilometers to 5 kilometers, and in that range for the most part. Some of them are a little bit deeper.
Well, I wonder, do you think it's actually equipment that we're able to pick up more than we used to?
Well, I have no doubt that that's probably true, especially in the early days. They just didn't have a way to read that. They could
certainly those little ones.
Yeah, they could only go by what they feel, and if there's a 2.7 earthquake going on underneath them, they wouldn't be able to detect it. So during the 2000s and late 1990s...
Well, that's true.
Technology's been around for a long time now. No, they're definitely increasing, no question about it.
Okay, well, I just wanted to throw that out there because someone could say that. You're right. And then this map we found from earthquaketrack.com, and it shows how just around Ridgecrest and Searles Valley and Lone Pine, which is where we've been honing in on this region, the amount of activity that's just been going on. You pulled up this information last week.
It is amazing. And again, some of them are only 1 or 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers deep, but some of them are rather deep, 9, 10, 11, in that range, and some of them are only the 1 point something. There are some, in this case, on that page there, even that are 3.7. They're enough to do some damage.
Well, it was actually in Lone Pine that one of California's most famous earthquakes occurred. It's called the 1872 Owens Valley earthquake, also known as the Lone Pine earthquake, and it struck on March 26th at 2:30 local time in the Owens Valley. And this is where we've been taking you guys on these different nuggets in California along the east side of the Sierra Nevada. With the epicenter near the town of Lone Pine, its magnitude has been estimated, this is like from an article that was current in that time. Its magnitude has been estimated at 7.4 to 7.9 with a maximum Mercalli intensity of X. It was one of the largest earthquakes to hit California in recorded history and was similar in size to the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. 27 people were killed and 56 were injured.
Yes, and even though there were deaths, San Francisco obviously is considerably larger than Lone Pine, so the population just wasn't the same. But still, there were a number of deaths that were there, and we've been to the grave sites of the earthquake victims.
I'm going to read what the plaques say. On the date of March 26, 1872, an earthquake of much proportion shook Owens Valley and nearly destroyed the town of Lone Pine. 27 persons were killed. In addition to single graves, 16 of the victims were interred in a common grave eclipsed by this fence. The plaque laid before the flagpole dedicated on March 26th, the anniversary of the earthquake, reads as follows. 116 years ago this date, an 8.3 earthquake hit Lone Pine. People died. 16 are buried at the site in a common grave. Well, what's interesting is this is 8.3, and we just read they had different numbers, and it's all because of the way they measured them.
Today, the numbers are a little bit smaller, but it's because everything is standardized more than it was back in those days.
Oh, that's interesting. From History.com, this date in history, deadly earthquake hits California. An earthquake felt from Mexico to Oregon rocks the Owens Valley in California on this day in 1872, killing 30 people. California, with the large San Andreas Fault running through the entire state, is a prime area for earthquakes. At 2:30 a.m. on March 26, a large quake hit Inyo County in the Owens Valley of central California. Worst hit was Lone Pine, where 52 of the town's 59 homes were destroyed, killing 27 people as they slept. Okay, it said 27 people, 30 people. Maybe they're going to explain that as we continue on. The ground moved a full 7 feet horizontally in some places near Lone Pine. Major buildings in every town in Inyo were also seriously damaged. One thing that I thought was extremely interesting was that it was felt miles away in Tijuana even. And another part that was really, really interesting was that one of the most famous accounts of this earthquake came from explorer and scientist John Muir, the man who was instrumental in the establishment of Yosemite National Park. He was working as a caretaker at Black's Hotel in the area at the time, and witnessed the destruction of the famed natural landmark Eagle Rock. He reported the following: the shocks were so violent and varied and succeeded one another so closely, one had to balance in walking as if on the deck of a ship among the waves, and it seemed impossible the high cliffs should escape being shattered. In particular, I feared that the sheer-fronted Sentinel Rock, which rises to a height of 3,000 feet, would be shaken down, and I took shelter back of Big Pine, hoping I might be protected from outbounding boulders, should any come so far. Then suddenly, out of the strange silence and strange motion, there came a tremendous roar. The Eagle Rock, a short distance up the valley, had given way, and I saw it falling in thousands of the great boulders I had been studying so long, pouring to the valley floor in a free curve, luminous from friction, making a terribly sublime and beautiful spectacle. An arc of fire, 1,500 feet span, as true in form and as steady as a rainbow in the midst of the stupendous roaring rock storm. I know that was very colorful, but that was just one earthquake.
Yes.
Can we imagine?
No,
I don't think time of
I don't think we can
Noah's
imagine.
flood.
I don't even think it's possible to imagine. You know, in the original creation, it was a perfectly stable earth, perfectly stable and very good in God's eye. And then when the fountains of the great deep broke up and the windows of heaven were opened, and because of sin, because of the flood, and the outcome and the consequences, and the mountains rose, the valley sank down, the same day, we can't even fathom this kind of thing. I was in an earthquake in California many years ago, and it was enough to move things. And it was weird. It was trying to walk on ground that's moving. I remember in our little cabin in New Hampshire, we were in an earthquake.
Yeah, that was crazy. I thought it was a UPS truck coming up the driveway.
It was more heard and sensed than felt. I mean, the ground, we didn't feel it actually literally move, I don't think. Might have been some vibrating going on, but
we knew
it's weird.
Something happened.
If people have never been in something like that, we can't imagine. But imagine at the time of the flood and at the time when the mountains rose and the valley sank down.
Researchers later estimated that similar earthquakes occur on the Lone Pine Fault every 3,000 to 4,000 years. However, the Lone Pine Fault is only one of many faults on two parallel systems. The earthquake also formed a small graben that later was filled by water, creating 86-acre Diaz Lake. And here is just a map of the biggest earthquakes near Lone Pine over the years. We've got to say, we love Lone Pine.
We go by Diaz Lake all the time. It's interesting to be there at these places that are really quite historical.
Maybe one time we'll catch an earthquake when we're over there. Hopefully not a big one.
I'm kind of hoping so, actually.
That we're going to have to do our Ridgecrest earthquake, which was in recent times, in our next Nugget. All right, well, thank you. We wanted to give you an update on our status. We have been off the field for, 6 weeks now? We appreciate those of you who have been watching our nuggets and watching our Facebook Live on Sunday when Steve does a creation seminar lesson, and then on Tuesdays when he does a walk in faith lesson at 7 p.m. All these are Central Time. And again, we thank those of you who have been able to send us an offering. We certainly appreciate that because, as you know, evangelists who aren't evangelizing on the road, well, you know what that means. Consider becoming a monthly partner with us. That would be great. And if you would like to get one of our great new t-shirts, as America is opening up, we have these great t-shirts for you to wear that say, "Get America Great Again," with the Bible verse, Psalm 33:12. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. Thank you.